Welcome back to our generic crafting tutorial series. In episode 10 here, we are going to be making our storage chests that we're going to drop into the world and allow the player to deposit items into. So let's go ahead and get started on the chest itself. We will make the chest logic in one episode, and we'll make the actual UI to deposit the items in another episode. So we're going to need a new object here. And just like our bench and our gathering nodes, we're going to have a whole new object here, and that is going to be called chests. Or storage chests, whatever you want to call it. Now we have our meshes, which I've already imported into this game, but we have a little chest mesh here that will be in the description. And it's just a static mesh for a chest, so you can use whatever you want here, right? Not a big deal what you actually decide to use. So I'm going to Control X. So I'm just going to move this into chests here. Go into chests and move that into a mesh folder. That way we have it. I'm going to make my blueprint class here. This is just going to be an actor class, and this is going to be BP underscore storage chest. Pretty simple on this. Not an instant static mesh. We're just going to add the static mesh. Take it over the scene root. And we are going to use that chest mesh I was just talking about. You can use whatever mesh you want here. If you use a skeletal mesh, like you want one that actually has hinges and opens and has animations, make sure you use a skeletal mesh instead. We're just going to use that. We're going to compile, save, and it's going to have the material already in there. Again, this is just a basic little chest mesh. So with our chest here, just like we had the storage details for our gathering nodes, right? For our gathering nodes, we had all these details, the unique name, which we use to save. We're going to need something like that for our storage chest as well. So we're going to make a custom structure inside of our chests folder here. And this is going to be for the storage chest save data. So we're going to call this S stored chest data. And this structure is just going to have two things. It's going to have a name. And this is going to be the unique ID. And it's going to have an inventory array. So we're just going to call this inventory. And it's going to be an array of inventory items. And that's all we need to do here. And this is just going to be so that we can actually save the chest data. Since we're going to have multiple chests in the world, they need to have a unique ID, so we know exactly which chest has, which inventory contained in it. So for our storage chest here, we're going to go into our event graph, and we're first going to need a variable called unique ID. I'm going to put this in the setup category, and this is going to be then a name. This is also going to be instance and exposed, so when we drag our storage chest out into the world, we can declare a unique ID for it. Now, if you want to set this up based on like the exact chest name and location and all that stuff, you could do that. But I figured since maybe we'll be moving the chests around and putting them in different places, we'll just have the unique ID to say player room or player room 1. Whatever we want this storage chest to actually be, we'll do that when we drag it out into the world. And we're going to have one more variable. This is going to be private, and this is going to be the chest index. And we will get to why we need that later on. But for now, we can just make it and call it chest index. And those are the only two variables we're going to need to make here. So our chest is going to be an interactable component. So we need a box collision, because that's how we're doing our interactions in this series. If you want to do it differently, you're using maybe a look at or something like that, go ahead and don't worry about this. Just add in however you are planning on interacting with your chest. But for this series, we did collisions, so we're going to make sure that we have this collision here somewhere that we can actually get into it. And our components, we're going to need one more thing here, and that's going to be AC inventory. So this chest is going to have its own self-contained inventory component. So when you drag your chest out into the world, you're going to want to make sure you set up all these details. So let's drag a chest out here. And we're going to set its unique ID to something like chest 01. You're just going to make sure you put a unique ID for each chest. And if you're doing this dynamically, like maybe you have a player housing system, you'll probably want to make some logic to actually set up that unique ID based on which chest or how many chests are being pulled out, and all that jazz. But we're also going to need to actually use, right, these setup values here. So we want an inventory size, and we want to use inventory size, and we don't want to use overflow. But what if one chest has an inventory size of 50, like a small chest, and you have a large chest with an inventory size of 60, but you want to use this same class here? For that, we're going to make inventory size a variable. We can just call it size. And we're going to put that in setup as well as instance and exposed. And that way we have this size parameter attached to this chest, so we can say that this chest holds 50 items. And in order to set that up, we're going to drag out our AC inventory and call set size. And we're going to plug size right into that. But we're going to do that when we load up the game here. So for now, don't worry too much about it. We also need to make sure we have our interaction component. So we're going to go into our class settings. We're going to add BPI interact. That way the player can actually interact with this widget here, with this chest. So we're going to have our trigger for interact, and this is going to create a widget, and we're not going to worry too much about that later on. I just want to get the cast going here, so we're going to get instigator controller and cast to the player controller. And that's where we're going to write our logic to actually display this widget in the world. If you're doing your widget displays somewhere else, then you're going to want to, do that however you decided to do it. So on our event begin play, we're going to need to, one, set the inventory size. So we're going to say event begin play. And two, we're going to need to load the inventory that is actually contained inside of this chest, right? Because we want to be able to save and load the inventory that the player has put in here, so it doesn't just disappear and become empty every time. And we're going to need a custom event for that. So I'm going to come over here and make a custom event, load chest data. Okay. And our load chest data is going to do something we've done quite a few times. It's going to get valid save game ref. And then we're going to need a way to, we're going to need to add our storage chests array into our save game reference here. So I'm going to go into my game, and I'm going to go into my save. I'm going to add a new variable. This is going to be called storage chests. And this is going to be an array of the s_stored chest data. And we're going to put this in a category called storage. So for this, we can either get our chest index, we can make a function inside of our save game to get the chest index, or we can make a function inside of our storage chest to get the chest index. In my example project, I made it inside of the storage chest, but I think I actually want to make that function inside of the save game itself this time. So we're going to call a new function inside of our save custom called find chest index, and that's going to take an input value of the unique chest name, so unique ID, and it's going to output a return of an index of the chest's index. You don't necessarily have to return an index here. You could return the reference to the chest itself if you wanted to, and just remove the index from our BP storage chest. But then we're going to have to run through this array and find the chest index when we save, and I don't want to do that. I just want to grab the chest index so I can get a copy of the chest out and set a copy based on the function we're going to write for that. So what I want to do here is get my storage chest array. I'm going to run through a for each, but we don't actually need to do all of them. We can do a for each with break here. That way we stop this logic whenever we find the chest that is saved with the unique ID. And that's just because there's a non-zero chance you might have hundreds of chests inside of your game. So we don't want to loop through the entire thing if we don't have to, right? So we're going to say equal here. Make sure the unique ID is equal to the unique ID that is coming in. And if that ID is the unique ID, we are going to make a local variable here called lchest index. We're going to set the default value to -1. That way we have a checksum here to see if the chest index is valid or not. So if we didn't find the chest index, it's going to return -1. Just like we've done a few times so far in this series. I'm going to take the chest index, go ahead and set it when it's equal, and we'll go ahead and break. And then off of the completed, we'll just return the chest index. And this can be a pure function because we're not actually changing anything. We're just kind of checking to see if what this chest index is. So that's fine being pure. So I'm going to pull this out and say find chest index. I'm going to plug in the unique ID. And that's going to give me the chest index. So I'm going to go ahead and get chest storage chests. And I'm going to promote this right here, my chest index, to a variable inside of the chest. That way we have it for later. And then I'm just going to get a copy of that exact chest data. Okay? So again, you can put this inside storage chest if you want. You can leave it here. Kind of depends on you. Wherever you want to put this is wherever you want. You could even put this in the blueprint function library if you really wanted to, and pass in the chests array as well. But I figure this right here will probably work fine for us. So we need to see if this index, before we even get this copy, we need to see if this index is equal to -1, right? Because if this is equal to -1, then a copy does not exist, right? We can't actually get that. So we're going to branch off of here, and we're just going to add an event log. This says the chest is empty. Now this will flood your event log, but since I only have one chest in here, this is just going to be a quick way to debug whether or not we're actually saving the chest data. So you'll want to remove this probably later on. But basically, if the index is -1, then there is no chest data saved. We don't need to do anything, right? We don't need to get this and do anything with it. If there is not, we need to pull off of our AC inventory, and we need to load our inventory. But we don't actually have a function for that, right? In our inventory component for the player, we load it on begin play. Right? We load it on begin play by getting the owner and seeing if it's the player. And if it's not the player, we don't do anything. And that's because we're going to call this custom event called load inventory. And we're going to put this in the category of loading. And we're going to call this right from the storage chest. That way we don't get confused on who is calling what here. And load inventory is just going to take an input of the inventory array, and it's going to go ahead and set the inventory array. So in our storage chest, we can load inventory. We're going to take this getter, and we're going to get the inventory out of that, and just go ahead and set it here. Okay, and that's all that's going to do. Now that's going to have our inventory loaded up in the chest when we hit load chest data. So on event begin play, I'm actually going to delay a tick just to make sure that everything else in the game has had a second to load up when we are loading. And we are going to load chest data. Okay. That's all I'm going to do off of event begin play. And that's all I'm going to do off of load chest data. So I'm going to take these down here, I'm going to comment them, and I'm going to say something like load up the chest, set the capacity. Now if you want variable sizes, when we set up our banker, we're going to be doing a purchase slot system, which lets us buy inventory slots and increase our size. So you want to copy that logic over when we do the banker in a few episodes. But for now, I'm just going to have chests be a static size, whatever size they are when I drop them into the world. That's how big the inventory size is going to be. So even if this was 0, it's going to use this size value. Okay. And we just want to make sure that we did set everything up. We set up use inventory size to true and use overflow to false. And that should be good. So now we also want a way to save our chest data So when we put items in the chest, we want to be able to save it. So we're going to make a custom event called save chest data. Save chest data is going to more or less do the same thing. We're going to get our BPFL custom. And we need to see, well, we don't actually need to do an isValid check. I did in my example just to add an event log, but we don't need to do that here. We're going to make a custom event inside of our save to actually save our chest. So just like find chest index, which we're actually going to put in the storage category, we need another function here called set chest data, or set save storage data, whatever you want to do. And we're going to put that inside of storage as well. What this is going to do is this is going to take in an index and the storage data. So this is going to take in index and new chest data of the type s_stored chest data. And basically this is going to come and it's going to take our storage chests here and it's going to see if this index is greater than, let's just do an equal. We'll see if this equal is -1. If it is -1, pull out to a branch. We're just going to add it in. Okay. We're just going to add it right on in. And if it is not -1, and I'm actually going to return a value here as well. So return, whoops, off of the execution. I'm actually going to return the index too, and we're going to see if this is a new index. So we're going to say out index. And this is just kind of a secondary failsafe, because we're going to be saving pretty much every time we put an item into our inventory. So when I call this, whoops, when I call this set chest data from this save game here, if I can type, we're just going to go ahead and reset our chest index to this out index. And we'll be putting the chest index in here as well. And we'll be making this chest data. Okay, so if that in index is equal to -1, remember when we loaded up the game, right, we set the chest index regardless of whether or not it was -1. So if it is -1, then we now have a valid chest index added in, and we're just going to go ahead and return that index. Now if this is false, if it is not -1, that means the chest already exists, so we need to set the array element for that index to this new chest data item. So we could get new chest data. And I'm actually going to duplicate this just so it's a little bit cleaner and put it up here in this add. That's a little bit cleaner for us. We're not dragging pins all over the place. And here we're also going to return this in index value. That way, again, we are always kind of setting our return index to the valid index. That way, if we need to save again, we don't have to run all this find chest data logic. We already have the index. We can just go ahead and set up the values in here. So that's all we're going to do in set chest data. Make sure that's in the storage. And that should be good to go. So here we're going to make our chest data. So we need to make. And this is going to be pretty simple here. You're just going to take the unique ID. You're going to take your AC inventory, and you're going to get the inventory. Pass that right on through. Okay. And now all we need to do is actually just save the game. So we're going to try save game. You might want to delay a tick here if you're having problems with maybe a race condition or you're setting a boatload of data. Maybe you want to delay a tick and make sure that the save game object has actually had a chance to run this function completely. And then we're going to try to save with the async. That's all we're going to do here. So I'm going to say save the current chest inventory. Now if you want to have currency as well, when we do vendors, we're going to be making another custom struct just like this, and it's going to be s_stored vendor data. And that's going to have a currency value attached to it. But I figure you probably don't want to drop money in a storage chest. It doesn't really make much sense. Money isn't attached to anything severe. In the bank, we allow you to drop money, but in the storage chest, I figured we'll just not allow you to drop money. Totally up to you. And if you want to add that in a later episode, we will be doing that. So we need another. We need to add our input or our. Ugh, sorry, we need to add our interaction event for save. For our eye trigger save inventory. So whenever this gets called, we're gonna save our chest data, and this is just so we can save the data from somewhere that is not internal, like inside of this chest, which is what we're going to be doing through our UI. When we add an item to the chest, we're going to remove it from the player, and then we're going to save the chest data on the save the data on the player via this eye trigger save. And then when we do it on the chest, we are also going to save the data via this eye trigger save inventory. Okay, so pretty simple there. That's all we have to do for save. And now we need a couple of different ways to add items into the chest and to remove items from the chest, okay? So we have our eye drop item, craft item, enhance item, and gather item. But I'm not actually going to use any of those because I like things to be very particular, I guess, neat, maybe. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a custom event for each thing that I need to do. So I'm going to add a new one for eye add item, and I'm going to add a new one for eye remove item. Because inside the player as well, adding and removing items isn't going to give experience values, right? We want to make sure we keep that separate from crafting items and gathering items, which give experience values. And we're not going to use drop item, because remember, drop item drops the entire stack of the item. So we need to kind of come into these and figure them out. But we also need to do some stuff here with these. So we need to get our interaction data. We make sure this is storage chest. Crafting type doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that we set our eye interaction data function here to storage chest. And we don't need item data. We don't need any of this stuff from the player. So now we're going to go in and make our custom events here. So I'm just going to double click that to get it. That way I don't have to open up the blueprint itself. I'm going to come into inventory. I'm going to duplicate this eye gather item, and this is going to be eye add item. I'm going to make another one called eye remove item. This is going to be item to remove. And it's still going to be the same structure of inventory info. And this is going to be item to add. So both in our player and in our storage chest, and when we make our vendor later on, and when we make our banker later on, we're going to be using eye add item and eye remove item. We're also going to make another one called eye adjust currency, but we'll make that when we do our currency. And these are basically going to do the same thing they do inside of the player. So we're going to take inventory and we're going to add to inventory for add item. And for remove item, we're just going to remove from inventory. Okay. We're going to comment these and we're going to say interaction events. And we're going to do the same thing in our player. So we're going to take these two interaction events and just do the exact same thing in our player. I'm going to go into my player, interfaces, inventory, add item, and remove item. Get my inventory. Add to inventory. And remove from inventory. And I'm going to pick these up and I'm going to put them over with my other interaction stuff, just to kind of keep them all grouped together. Like I said before, we are going to end up with a lot of these interaction events on the player, so we want to keep them kind of grouped up here. That's all we actually need to do for now on the player and in the storage chest. Actually, we need to do one more thing in the player, my bad. My bad. We need to make sure we're able to actually interact with the storage chest. So we have here when our component begins overlap, we're checking to see if we have the BPI interactions. Same with everything else. If it is a storage chest, we're going to make sure we set can interact to true. And we're going to set this interaction message to use storage chest. And we can just pass that right through, not a big deal. And basically this is just going to allow us to walk up to the storage chest. And it's going to show use storage chest. And we see when we loaded there, it said chest is empty. Now we haven't made the UI for the storage chest yet. So nothing is going to happen when I try to interact with it. And that's what we're going to do in the next episode. Okay? We're going to make a single widget component that is going to be called WTransfer. And that's going to work for the chests, the bank, and the vendors. So I hope you liked this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section below. And thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the videos so far, I urge you to join our Patreon. For just $3 a month, you'll get access to all of the videos in this series as soon as I create them. Always available on Patreon, always free, and ready to go. You'll also get a copy of the example project so you can follow along step by step with a real visual guide in the project.